Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I had to make a watermelon themed card because Simon posted another adorable little graphic on their social media, and it's apparently Watermelon Day today, so my mind started whirring and the whole card idea started coming together, and I was like, I gotta do this. So I pulled out the funny food stamp set. This is another one of my favorites. I went on and on about the beautiful flower set. I've done multiple videos on it. This is another favorite on that level where I've done multiple videos on it. Just a completely different style of set. Very cutesy and punny and all that stuff. So I am stamping the little watermelon with Simon's Intense Black ink onto Neenah Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock. I just had this long scrap, and it was just perfect to be able to move and stamp this watermelon multiple times onto this scrap of cardstock with that Intense Black ink, because I intend to color this in with Copic Markers. So I have my Copics here. I've listed them on the screen, and I discovered during this process that my R24, my middle shade, is starting to dry out. You can't really tell looking on screen, like watching me color with it. I could tell the minute I started coloring with it. I was like, crap, I need to refill this. I actually stopped filming and was like, oh, I need to refill it. I shockingly don't have a refill for this one. I thought I did, and I don't. So I'm gonna have to get a refill for it because it's like kind of on its last legs here. So I made it work, but you can tell when a Copic is starting to dry out, it feels more, I would call almost scratchy in a way. That's how I could tell immediately, because I colored with the one marker, and the color generally will go on very smooth with Copics. The colors just go, they just flow. And when a marker starts to dry out, you start getting more, it'll be more streaky. It's harder to blend because not enough color is coming out. And like it feels almost like scratchy. That's how I can tell when it's time to refill a marker. So, like I said, I made it work. I made it work. I made a mess of the coloring. I went right over the seeds. It doesn't matter. I'm going to cover those up with darker color anyway. So I used, I did my little red on my watermelon. I did a very, very pale yellow-green, almost white for the inner part of the rind. And then this outer part of the rind, I didn't blend. I purposely, kind of scribbled the color on because watermelons have that nice speckly, stripy sort of a look. So I did no blending. I just applied the color and then worked my way to the lightest, but didn't blend anything because I wanted that, speckly sort of look. And then I took a couple of really dark grays. I'm using C8 and C6 here to cover up the seeds. So that covers up the mess I made when I went over the lines with the reds. And did that for his little feet too. And then I also used a little bit of C6 just to give it a little bit of definition. And then once I was done with that, I pulled up my white Jelly Roll pen that I am obsessed with and I use frequently. People have asked if I'll do a separate video on how I add highlights. I don't know, maybe at some point. It's not something I really think of. I just add dots and stripes where I think it'll look good. I don't really follow any rules, where the light source is or anything like that. I'm just adding it where I think it'll look good. So with this, I added, a little bit of a highlight, and then added some to the rinds. I just scribbled it on the rinds, and then added little highlights to the seeds because I thought it would look cute. So after I had done all that highlighting, I die cut it, the watermelon, with the coordinating dies. I also die cut some Doodlebug pattern paper. I actually pulled out some Doodlebug for once instead of hoarding it like a crazy person. This is from the Sweet Summer pack that came out last year. It's still available. So I die cut the rainbow stripe in the pack from using the Simon Stitch Rectangle. And then I also die cut some black cardstock with one of the nested Talk Bubbles wafer dies. And then the Yay is from the CZ Design Yays wafer die set. And I die cut that multiple times from white cardstock and then stacked them 3 layers together with some Gina K Connect glue. And then for the sentiment, this is from the Funny Food stamp set. And I am stamping that onto, this is some Gina K Coral Reef cardstock here. And I'm going to stamp that with Simon's clear embossing ink and then heat emboss it with Simon's Detail White embossing powder. And after I heat emboss it, and I'm going to trim it down with my trimmer, I noticed it was the closest color of cardstock I had to the shade of watermelon, but it's still a little too orange. So to work with that, I did my heat embossing first, trim this down with my paper trimmer, and then I pulled out a red Distress ink. I just used Festive Berries. I didn't want it too red, but I pulled out Festive Berries Distress ink, and I'm going to sponge that onto the cardstock, and that just deepens it up a little bit and, you know, brings it closer to the color of the watermelon. It's an extra step, a little unnecessary, but, you know, it just gives it a little extra something. Plus, it darkens the edges of the cardstock and makes it look nicer, too. So after I sponged the color on, I just took a piece of paper towel and rubbed it over the heat embossing there, and that'll just remove any ink that might have gotten on top of the white heat embossing. So after I'd done all of that, it's now time to start like assembling my card front. So I'm just going to use my Xyron Mega Runner here to start adhering the pattern paper. I die cut another pattern paper from the Doodlebug Sweet Summer 6x6 with a smaller stitched rectangle wafer die. I just wanted to pull in these little fruit because I'm going to use some on the inside of the card. So I die cut that, and then I die cut a rectangle from just some more white cardstock. And this I'm going to pop up with a little bit of dimension. So I'm using the Simon Big Mama foam tape that I was raving about, I think in my last video. It's been a crazy week. Anyway, really like this foam tape. It's a bit of a pain to play with the release paper sometimes, but if you have this foam tape and you struggle with removing the release paper, you can use the edge of scissors. I've shown that in older videos. Use the edge of your scissors just to like work it up, and then you can peel it off and it comes off no problem. So use the foam tape on that rectangle as well as on the speech bubble. Pop those into place, and then I'm going to adhere my big die cut yay over the speech bubble. And then the sentiment I'm going to pop on with more of that same foam tape. And then my little watermelon peoples, I'm going to adhere with just the Gina K Connect glue, kind of having them all like stacked one on top of each other. So I did that, and then my plan was, it was like, you know, the sentiment says, you're one in a melon. And I was like, I have more than one melon on here. So how do I make one of them, you know, stand out? Because that's kind of the whole point. So I pulled out some Doodlebug enamel shapes from a completely different collection. This is from the Hello collection, just because there's this little green bow in there, and I thought that would be really cute. And so I decided to decorate one of them with a little bow, and then I'm gonna add some Google eyes to just this one as well. So these are the tiny little Studio Caudia. These are the 3mm ones. So 2 teensy little dabs of glue right over the eyes, and then I'm gonna pop those into place. So this one is one in a melon. Got the Google eyes, it's got its cute little bow decoration, and then on the inside of the card I'm again using more Doodlebug. These are the odds and ends that these I definitely hoard. I never use these. I pull them out and I play with them and I giggle at some of the goofiness of it, and then I put them back in the package and call it a day. So I actually pulled them out and put some on the inside of the card. I thought they'd be just really cute with their little happy faces. So I did a little cluster of fruit here on the inside of the card, and then trimmed off the little pieces that were hanging off the sides there with my scissors. And then the sentiment is the Simon Says Stamp Happy Birthday script, and I die cut that from black cardstock, and then added just really tiny little dabs of the adhesive to this, and I'm going to adhere that into place. And then I'm going to add a little tiny dab of adhesive and pop the little dot to the eye into place as well. And once I've got that adhered, that's going to finish off my card. So as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a list of all the supplies used, as well as direct links to everything. On my blog, I'll post that cute little graphic that kind of inspired this whole card. So I'll have all that on my blog, which is linked as well directly below the video. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!